Well, there we have it, boys and girls. We have assembled a wonder team of loans. I invented that, signing loans on Football Manager. Check the records. I was doing it before America even existed. This is a team full of loans. We're in great form. Playoff push incoming. Right. We play Bromley. I think we can move above them. Yeah, we're 3 points behind them. And if we beat them, we'll have a better goal difference than them as well. So, Papitou, he can be a ball-winning midfielder. And then we've promised Spence game time, haven't we? So he can play alongside him. And then Simpson Pussy at the back. This all works for me. Where's Cardoso? I doubt he can do Shadow Striker. Oh, he can do Shadow Striker. He'll be fine. He'll get his opportunity eventually. Right, let's go do a football with our new look defence. There he is. Mr. Handsome. Get that flag down, linesman. Would I be able to do instalments in season 2? I can do instalments from January. That was always the agreement. Instalments from... It was only that first window we weren't allowed to do instalments. He's got to pay for Lautaro Martinez at the end of the first season. How much did he agree to give them for him? Do a goal! He only went and did a goal on his debut as well. That's a loan signing right there. That's how you do a football, everybody. That's the definition of do a football. Sign a player purely on vibes. No scouting, no attributes. Just like the cut of his jib. Get him in, goal on debut. That, boys and girls, is how you do it. Now, the day you see me spend £750 on a Star Wars set when I've not even seen the movies, that's the day I need an intervention. I don't need to be told to stop spending money on Lego. Because every time I'm in the Lego store, I look at the sets and they're like, they do look so cool. They'd be so fun to build. But I'm not into Star Wars at all. I can't justify that kind of price on that kind of set. Right, there we go. We give a debut to our boy from Spurs, Damola Ajayi, who is pacey. Also Cardoso. I bought one on the Prime Day thing. I got an R2-D2 because it was like £40 off. It was too low priced to turn down. I don't mind buying them at that kind of level. It's when I start buying the big expensive ones that it's a problem. How long do I see this Barrow journey going to the next move? I guess it depends. If we get headhunted, we'll consider the job. If we get bored, we'll look for a job. I'm not putting a time frame on it now. Smith's Toys are doing it for £550. That does not tempt me, no. I'm quite comfortable knowing the most expensive set I've ever bought was my Avengers Tower because I like the Avengers. I'm not going above that unless it's for an IP I really enjoy. Plus, Tor demonstrated that there's less appetite for me to do lower league in France. It got far fewer views than Barcelona, Man City, or anything in England would get. So I don't think now is the time for me to be disappearing off into foreign leagues, knowing that they immediately cut the views in half. So I hope you all enjoy English football, because that's what you're getting for the next 4 months. Would I ever do a one club save in Wales? I mean, I've done saves in Wales before. I don't really see what's the end game of a one club save in Wales. They just get boring. That's the problem with saves where you're in a smaller nation. It just gets to the point where you automatically win the league every year and win every league game 8-0, and that's boring. But then you also get knocked out of Europe in the qualifying rounds every year, and that's boring. So from the majority of the time, it's really boring. And then eventually you get to the point where you kind of, by just sheer brute force, win the Champions League. But it takes a long time. It's just boring. I don't often have a nice thing to say about Past Kev, but I'm so glad that he decided right back at the start of YouTube to do a branded save every year, because I think it's going to save me this year. being able to come out in a couple of weeks and say non-league to legend is here, and people know what that is and know they watch it every year, I think that's gonna save us. Try and beat Reading. Where are Reading in the league? The same place Chesterfield were in. So we're starting to play the good teams again now. This might not be ideal. We're hitting the good teams, but we're also at the point where a lot of our better players are injured. So it's not ideal on multiple fronts. People seem to be misunderstanding that making the UI suitable for both console and PC is them simplifying the game. Yeah, that's because people haven't tried to understand it. I think there's a lot of people who haven't played games at work across multiple platforms. The one I always refer back to is Civilization. Civilization's UI looks exactly the same on PC and console. No one would argue that Civilization has been dumbed down or simplified. It's just been made so it works across multiple platforms because it's 2024 and people want to play the game on the thing they want to play the game on. I don't see the harm in making it possible to play Football Manager with a controller. Anyone who's tried to play it on a Steam Deck in recent years or played those early Switch or console versions before they mastered the controls knows how important it is to have proper working controller controls. And those recent Switch versions and the console ones have controlled really well. They've come up with a good way to make it control on a controller. So what's the harm in letting PC players have access to that as well? Well, that's not been ideal these last couple of matches. We're going to have to win our next game or else we're going to have to change something. Because we can't just start losing. That was never on the agenda. I think any hope we had of sneaking into the playoffs has gone with those last two matches, which wasn't really a realistic hope anyway. We're not going to get relegated, and that's the main thing. We're just gearing up ready for the summer rebuild now. That's a football goal. There we go. Back to winning ways. That's what I'm talking about. Will Mr. Hansen be here next season? I'm not sure. I don't know. He was probably one of the ones whose contract's up. And if he's expensive, I doubt we keep him. Because we fill the team up with Premier League youngsters next summer. I know he's got a year left on his contract. So unless someone offers me £250,000 for him, yes, he'll be here next year. That's a penalty kick, surely. Surely. Oh, I see. We're doing this lack of defending again. Our attempt at defending not going so well. I actually think part of our problem is we've got the Segundo Volante with a ball-winning midfielder and they're both leaving their position. Without getting too tactical about it, we're dropping Fapitu to be an anchor so he stays in his position and lets the Segundo Volante roam. Because we've got no midfield when they both charge out of their position. But the thing is, what you get as well is Premier League fans just don't understand that outlook, the lower league fan outlook on it. Because to a Premier League fan, being in the Premier League is the be-all and end-all. But for the majority of football fans, it just isn't. What we actually care about is our club existing. And that's much more important than whether we win or lose or what league we play in. We just want to exist because it's much more important than winning trophies and climbing league tables. So I'm much happier supporting a club that I know will continue to exist. He wants to explore the options at the end of his contract. Well, I'll sell him now then because we'd like the money. Is there a I'll sell you now then? No. The actual thing I want to say to him, we've got all these options, and the thing I want to say to him isn't there. Because obviously I'll still involve, well, I'll just say, well, that's okay. Well, I'm not going to let you run down your contract. I'll sell you in the summer. I don't know what to say. Why would you want to leave? I do like it here, but I'd like to explore my options. Yeah, that's fine. I'll sell you in the summer. I'm not going to marginalise him from the team, and all of the rest of the options are begging him to stay. So he now goes on the transfer list. Yeah, I saw the example someone gave before about Brighton. Charlton are the perfect example. Charlton were considered a really well-run club for years. But then that person stopped running that club, and now look at the mess they're in. And they had the nice, shiny new ground built for them and all the stuff that Brighton are getting and have had. But sooner or later, that owner goes away and the rug gets pulled out from them and they go back to their level. Yeah, Wigan. Wigan are another good example of that. Bolton as well were a good example of that. These clubs who didn't just get investment on the pitch, they got massive investment off the pitch. They were generally ran pretty well, but it was always with a very rich benefactor underwriting it all. They never really became properly self-sustainable. They were just well run within their own criteria. I guess Bournemouth are the ones where everyone involved in the rise has left and they've kept a higher baseline than they had previously. Only because they've got another set of rich owners. All it's done is delay the inevitable. There'll come a point where they don't have a set of rich owners anymore. That's me hydrating. Thoughts on if Posh ever hired Steve Evans? I mean, we're not going to hire him again. There's like, I don't know, 10, 12 big teams that should always be part of the Premier League, and then the rest is always going to be made up of the current flavour of the month. And everyone can get pretty close to naming who those 10 to 12 are. And Spurs are obviously in that number. And then the rest of the Premier League's a rotating cast of flavour of the months. Some bigger than others. Crystal Palace definitely going to the flavour of the month category. They're a bigger flavour of the month than Brighton. What about Everton? Everton are a big club. You shouldn't need to ask. You should just know. Again, the person saying Swansea, question mark, you know the answer to that question. You don't need to ask it. Yeah, Villa, obviously a big club. Forest, I would argue, go in the flavour of the month category. Even though they've won the European Cup, it was very much, they had a really good manager. Forest have had one good team in their history. That screams flavour of the month. Blackburn, the worst team to win the Prem. I mean, they weren't. That Blackburn team was a much better team than the Leicester team that won the Premier League. Can we do a football here, please, chaps? We're supposed to beat this kind of team. This is not proper Barroowcelona in action. That's more like it. That's much more like it. I've seen golf clubs bigger than Palace. Absolutely. 1994 was 12 years ago. Yeah, that feels about right. That seems more believable than trying to tell me Blackburn won the Premier League 30 years ago. I make it 10 big teams current in the Prem. Chelsea, City, Man United, Arsenal, Spurs, Newcastle, Everton, Villa, Liverpool, West Ham. I think you also add Leeds to that, which makes 11. Yeah, but we're not talking about who are the big clubs currently in the Premier League. We're talking about who are the big clubs who should make up the Premier League, and then you have the flavours of the month in there too. Leeds are temporarily not there, but I put them in the big club category. They're obviously a bigger club than Crystal Palace, using them as the example again. Oh, what's happened here? This has all gone very wrong. Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday were one that I was thinking might well be part of my 12. We shouldn't have lost there. That's frustrating. And now we've got to play McDonald's. And form is starting to depart us. The 12, in my opinion, Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Man City, Tottenham, Everton, West Ham, Leeds, Villa, Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, I don't think there's a huge amount of argument. There's a few that people will quibble with. Sheffield Wednesday are the obvious one, where if we're letting them in, then you've got the likes of Southampton, Forest, Fulham, being like, hang on, what are they doing here? So maybe we limit it to 10 and chop out Leeds and Sheffield Wednesday. So I think that 10 there's no arguing with. And I did say originally 10 to 12. I'd argue Leeds over West Ham in the north. Leeds are massively supported. West Ham won the World Cup though, didn't they? Their only claim to fame. What's going on here then? A little bit of a penalty kick at the other end. I like the sound of this. Lovely, lovely, lovely. No, I realised City spent some time down in the lower leagues just before they got the money. But speaking as a lower league fan who saw matches against City and before that against Newcastle in the 90s, there was always a noticeable buzz because the big club were in town. And you don't get that buzz out of Sheffield Wednesday or Leicester or Blackburn or any of these other clubs. But Man City, that's a sellout. Newcastle, that's a sellout. Oh, that's not ideal. Come March, SI cancels FM25 and goes to FM26 in November. Watch Anna explode. I mean, we still wouldn't be able to afford to do it if that did happen. We're not just cancelling it because it was happening when the game was coming out. If we'd have been going in February, we'd be cancelling it as well because we wouldn't be able to afford to do it. Don't mess up from here, chaps. We're ruining McDong's promotion push. And that's what I'm all about. I love ruining their day. Beautiful. I was thinking about it because I've had my beard for so long now. I don't actually know what I look like without a beard these days. I know what I looked like without a beard when I was 25, but I also fully acknowledge the rest of me doesn't look the same as it did when I was 25 anymore. So I have no idea what I look like now as a 42-year-old with no beard. So there is a little bit of, I am a little bit interested in what I actually look like underneath this. But then at the same time, I think if even I don't know, it's like an insurance policy, isn't it? In case I ever commit a really serious crime, I can just shave the beard off and I'll be fine. I won't even know it's me. Would I shave it for FM25 to come out tomorrow? No. No beard forever. That's going to be a much higher price. That's probably going to need to be 100 grand a year for the rest of my life. So let's assume I live to like 80. I'm going to need like £3.5–4 million to shave my beard off and keep it gone forever. Oh, Homestead because Mrs. Wearmouth's dead. What was the cause of death? What, Mrs. Wearmouth? She's died in mysterious circumstances. One day she was alive, the next day she was dead. Football! Lovely, lovely, lovely. What's the XG table looking like? Well, considering when we were rock bottom of the league, we were mid-table on the XG table. I imagine we're probably in the playoffs on the XG table. Ba 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 ba. We'll have a look at it after this match. Idiots. Going attacking again. We want to win. Draws aren't enough. I just don't think it's particularly effective in FM24. The 4-2-4 works all right. I did the whole of my pentagon with a 4-2-4. There you go. We're 6th on the XG table. We had some bad luck early on. Clearly. Right, boys and girls, I think we're going to wrap things up there for tonight because it's a couple of weeks until the next match. Gives us 5 matches for the next stream and then get into the summer transfers. That should be enough for Topher to squeeze 2 episodes out of it, as he likes to do. The next stream will obviously, I'm streaming tomorrow for the network game. There'll then be a Lego stream on Saturday. And then next FM stream, apart from the network game, will be Sunday night. So next stream in this series, Sunday night, network game tomorrow. And I'll see you all here for that. 4 o'clock kickoff, remember, tomorrow. Early start for the network game.